Welcome to Rust Belt Capital. Over the last several years, we have bought tens of millions of dollars of apartments and looked at hundreds of millions of dollars of apartments. In this video today, we're going to go over the due diligence phase. This is an incredibly important part of real estate, of acquiring any piece of real estate, especially in the apartment business. And after buying tens of millions of dollars worth of apartments, I would like to think that we have learned quite a few things that I'd like to share with you so that maybe you can avoid some of the pitfalls or be more aware of things to be more successful in your investing career. Now, first and foremostly, due diligence is just a fancy word for double checking, right? Making sure that what you're bidding on is actually what you want to buy. It's a part of any real estate transaction. As a matter of fact, it's a part of most real estate transactions or just transactions in general. Think of it when you go buy a car, test driving it, looking at it, doing an inspection, all that type of stuff. That is due diligence. Now, the year that this video is being recorded in is 2025, January of 2025. It was really popular a couple of years ago in the retail space. That means individual houses for buyers to waive inspections, which is due diligence. Why would they do that? Because it was really competitive and very hard to get your offer accepted on a piece of real estate. I would say that is incredibly dumb to do. And with apartments, it's incredibly dumb to do. Why? Because the due diligence phase is a insurance phase. Okay. Super important that what the seller is selling you is actually legitimate. What they say it is, that what they're representing is correct. Okay. That's why you don't waive it. Now, there's a couple different things when it comes to the due diligence phase that you need to know in order to do it right. First and foremostly, there is the physical inspection phase. It is kind of what it sounds like, right? So if you have a 100-unit apartment complex, that is where you are going to walk every single unit. It is very important to walk every single unit, get your eyes on it, and see what's going on. Now, the first apartment complex that we bought, this is a lesson that we had to learn. We did not know this. We did not do this. And it came to bite us in the butt. Because how do you know exactly what you're getting, right? So long story short, we didn't walk every single unit. We closed. And then all of a sudden, some of the skeletons started coming out of the closet. There were units that were in very big disrepair that we weren't aware of. Now we had to go and remodel them. We didn't really have the budget for them. Thankfully, there was enough fat in the deal that wasn't that big of a deal. I walked into the office of this apartment complex, and there was a ton of window shakers. So window shakers are window air conditioners. And I was like, that's weird. Why are there so many of those? What the heck? I was so naive and so new in the game that I didn't understand what the heck. What's going on there? Dude, you're the dummy. Why? Because there was a lot of HVAC systems where the air conditioning system was totally shot. Okay. We kind of suspected that we would have to replace the HVAC systems, but we thought we could do them on a rolling kind of plan. Well, that kind of expedited the system, or expedited the process much faster than we anticipated. Okay. Much faster than we anticipated. Had we known that, we could have brought more money to the investment. We could have knocked them out quicker. Okay. And it wouldn't have been such a shock. Now, like I said, in this particular deal, there was enough fat that it wasn't really a big issue. But see, small stuff like that could go from, what happens if there isn't that much fat? What if you're in a really competitive environment and you're paying the absolute most that you possibly can, and all of a sudden something like that happens? It can take a good deal to a bad deal, or a medium deal to a really bad deal really quick. This is super important. This is why you must walk every single unit. What's going on? What's the conditions of the appliances or of the mechanical systems in there? How old are they? Do they work? Super important. Super important. A lesson that we had to learn. Okay. Another part of this that maybe a lot of people won't talk about, but it's very important, is this gives you an opportunity to look at the tenant base in a way that you otherwise wouldn't be able to look at. Who's living in these units? What do they really look like? Not in like a discriminatory way, but like what type of clientele are you having? Who are you renting to? Okay. Are they an easy tenant base, a hard tenant base? Are they, meaning, do they pay their rent on time? Because you can kind of like, you can get a sense from people, right? It's called reading the room. You can read the room on the apartment complex a lot better than you can just from an offering memorandum or just from LoopNet or just from CoStar or just from whatever. You get to see what the tenant base looks like. And we've had, wildly different tenant bases at properties that we've bought before. We've bought apartment complexes that are almost like retirement communities, incredibly nice tenants. They pay on time. They don't make a problem. They're quiet. They don't beat anything up. And then we've had some very rough tenant bases. Okay. A lot harder, later on pay. They're not super easy on the property, all sorts of stuff like that. And the reason you're doing that isn't necessarily because you're going to walk away from the deal, but it's to know and prepare your operations team or prepare yourself, or maybe you need to bring more money to the table than you otherwise anticipated, or maybe it is a bad deal. Maybe you need to walk away. Okay. You're trying to find skeletons in the closet or find things that are otherwise unknowable until you get to that phase. Okay. So that's the physical inspection part of it. Walking the property. I mean, you already should visit the property before you get it under contract. So anything on the exterior, roofs or siding and all that type of stuff, that should already be in your analysis. But you can't walk inside every single unit. You can't crawl underneath buildings and see what the crawl spaces look like. Are they damp? Are they dry? Or you can't really tell all about the foundations and stuff like that. This is stuff that you're going to learn later on in the due diligence phase. Yes, but it's also an opportunity for you to get into the financials. Okay. We've talked a lot about in the past, where we talk with our investors, that there are deals that work on paper, and then that even though they work on paper, they might not work in reality because of a divergence between the physical and the financial. Okay. And so it's just as important as walking the property as looking at the financials. Okay. What does the trailing 12 look like? The trailing 12 is the rent roll for the last 12 months. What does your occupancy look like? What does your collection rate look like? Okay. Is the rent going up? Is the rent going down? What's going on? Get their income statement, see where they're doing expenses. And you can suss out an enormous amount of stuff by looking at their income statement over the last 2 years. You want at least 2 years of their income statement. What's their maintenance look like? Okay. Are there things that they're calling capital expenditures or one-time expenses and improvements to properties, but they're actually recurring? And so you need to account for that, and they're not being accounted for that. Is your expense ratio significantly lower than what is normal? If their expense ratio is significantly lower than what's normal, that's a big red flag. Okay. It indicates something's not quite kosher. Okay. It could be innocent. It could be accurate. But why are they deviating from the mean of your area substantially or a meaningful amount? Okay. You could be overpaying, is what I'm saying. And overpaying too much can sink you in an irreversible way. Okay. Maybe you're buying from the best operator in your area. I mean, they're the absolute best. And as much as, I believe we need to be the absolute best possible operator, there's nobody that comes close to us. There are people who are really good at operating properties, getting the top dollar rent. They just have their operations buttoned up to a T. Okay. Is it realistic for you to be able to compete with those people? Is it realistic for you to get the rents that they are getting? Why are they getting those rents? Where are they sourcing their tenants from? Is it normal, or they have some source that you can't replicate? They're off the street, or they have a contract with a big employment firm or big company down the road, okay, to like provide housing and get in front of people. If they have those types of contracts, it's hard to replicate and they might be able to get a premium over what you can get. This is all stuff that you want to know. When you're examining the trailing 12, you know, here's a pro tip maybe. When you go walk the units, you want to know what their occupancy level is and what their trailing 12 says, right? So if they claim that their occupancy is 95% and it's 100 units, and you go there and it looks like only 85 units are really occupied, then something's not right. Or if their trailing 12 says 95% economic occupancy, meaning 95% of the units are paying, but you go there and it looks like, man, there's probably 20 tenants that I don't really think maybe can afford this unit. That's what you got to be sussing out, because it's not unheard of some shady sellers to spoof the rent roll, meaning they'll put people in there to boost the occupancy that aren't capable of actually paying and doing the rent. Okay, that's a problem. That does happen. Or they get people who bring in bed bugs or rodents or I mean just wild stuff. You're dealing with places where people live. So anything that, you know, people experience in their houses, I mean, eventually, if you have enough units, it's just statistics, it's going to happen there too. This is, you're getting an intimate feeling of the property as close as you can before you actually close on the deal with irreversible money, right? Now, sometimes there are people or investors who will use this due diligence period as a renegotiating phase. Okay. And that would be uh, bad faith, if you ask me. That is, we're going to go retrade. We're going to offer you one price, and then we're going to come back and we're just going to try and renegotiate the price later because we already got you hooked in. That's not fair to the seller. Okay. And that makes you look bad. And it's short sighted. Maybe it helps you out today getting a better price, but in the long term, it's not going to help you because broker's going to know that, seller's going to know that. You're going to build a reputation that your word's not your word. That said, there are some times when it is appropriate to do a retrade. When? In the very rare times. It is when you discover something that is unknowable beforehand, right? And very material. For example, maybe the property has a foundation that's bad, but it was unknowable that you have a bad foundation. Or it has a type of plumbing material that is bad. It's going to go bad, but it's unknowable what type of plumbing it has beforehand. The other time that it would probably be okay to renegotiate is if they're representing things of the property that are materially incorrect. For example, say they're saying that there's washer dryer hookups and washer and dryer machines in a unit, but then you go and inspect every single unit and there aren't any washer and dryer hookups and aren't any washer and dryers. Yeah, you're going to renegotiate. Why? Because that's a material difference that they misrepresented. And it's very important because it messes up what you can actually get in terms of rent for the property. How many people do you think would pay more to live in an apartment that has an in-unit washer and dryer? A lot of people, right? And if there aren't even hookups, it's not like you can just go out and buy the washer and dryers and put them in. You got to get the infrastructure there. The infrastructure doesn't even exist. And even if the infrastructure exists, then you got to go out and buy the machines to put them in there. Okay. Costs money. Okay. And that should have been factored into the offering price that you gave to them. Now, it doesn't have to be that. It could be any number of different misrepresentations. Maybe they say it has all brand new roofs, but then you go and it looks, they look pretty new, but then you go and inspect them and the third party inspector says these roofs are 7 years old or 10 years old or 12 years old. That's a misrepresentation. Okay. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Okay. It's not like they try, like a lot of times, some of it's not really, nobody's trying to pull one over on you. I mean, there's definitely people who do that, but I mean, some of it's innocent, right? It's all about inspecting and making sure that you're doing that everything is up to snuff. The last thing that I'd say is when you on the due diligence phase and in your contract, something that you want to write into your contract is a occupancy or an economic occupancy maintenance level, right? So if you buy it and or you write an offer and it's accepted, okay, and when they accept it, the economic occupancy of the property is 98%. It takes a while to close on these properties. Could take 90 days, could take 120 days, maybe faster, maybe not. That gives time for the economic occupancy, especially if the on-site manager isn't going to have a job, to go down. Now that's a problem for you because that means your revenue source is going down. Okay. So if it was 98% when the offer was accepted, it should be very close to 98% when you take over. If it drops from 98% to 85%, it's a material problem for you. Now, it doesn't mean you would want to walk away from the deal or anything like that. It just means that, okay, well, you need to we need to settle up financially so that this isn't a huge loss for us. Okay. Or doesn't impair us in our first month or two of operations based on the offer that we gave you originally. These are all different things that we've encountered throughout the time that we've been investing, or we've seen in different properties, or know other operators that have experienced this as well. And I just wanted to go over that stuff so that you could be a more intelligent investor, whether you're investing as an operator yourself, whether you're investing as a limited partner or an investor in somebody else's deals, or you're just interested in this stuff and want to learn more. Okay. Wanted to share that stuff with you. This is years of knowledge and experience after looking at hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, buying tens of millions of dollars worth of apartments. And I think it's very valuable. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.